Just because when you turn your iPhone on, it like sometimes doesn't show people's names. It just shows their number. Like if you turn it back on from being off. And I don't know who's texting me. So my question is to you, how long do you think you should know a person or be contacting a person before you should remember their number? Because I only know...
What do you mean remember their number?
Because, like, I don't know, if you were in, like, an emergency and they had to call someone...
Yeah.
Who would you say, oh, call this person because I can tell you their number?
I'll be 100% real you. There's not a person on this planet I remember the number of except myself.
Yeah, sometimes...
I can tell you the landline number to my parents' house. That's it.
Yeah, I think I could maybe remember mum's, like, at a stretch, but I think I'd get the middle digits wrong.
I can even tell you the last 3 digits.
It's because there's a pattern, so I can remember hers, but...
Okay.
But yeah.
So my answer is never.
Fair. Yeah, I think I'm in that... I think I've reached that point as well. I've just accepted I'm not going to remember any others.
Do you know who that reminds me of?
Who's it remind you of?
There's an X-Man called Forget Me Not.
Yeah,
Welcome back to Super Podcast Bros.
We're back, baby.
So a couple apologies. I just haven't really been around this week to record. Also, we were put into copyright limbo. Mm-hmm. Disney, the evil mouse, came and tackled us, trying to stop us from growing.
Him and his cronies.
I'm telling you, it's the best video we ever made.
And you're never gonna
never gonna see it.
Just trust us, though.
Mickey the Mouse has made his decision known. So we're back though.
What do we do this evening?
This evening is all about Deadpool, X-Men, Wolverine. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the Deadpool and Wolverine. Is that what it's called? It's not called Deadpool 3, is it? It's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
It comes out on Thursday, so it's about time that we love talking about X-Men anyway, but you know what? Let's see where we think Deadpool and Wolverine is gonna land on our hierarchy of X-Men movies.
We're gonna use where we put Deadpool and Deadpool 2 to kind of plot a trajectory. If it's upwards, then good stuff.
Great stuff. I don't know, like the trailer didn't move me.
You know what? I feel like it's one of those things where it looks like they've revealed a lot, but there's still more to be... Because they did X23 like yesterday. They released a trailer.
Yeah, the movie's coming out in a week. Why are we still revealing things?
Because I didn't see anyone talking about that in any of the leaks or spoilers, and I'm just like, well, if people didn't know that already, you didn't need
to show it.
Yeah.
It's my thing, like, it's almost like intrigue and mystery is going to make people want to see something. Right? So I get sometimes you want to reveal things to get people's bums and seats, especially since I guess Marvel's a bit shook that, people haven't been getting bums and seats. But like, is X23 really that big a draw? Like, it's like I was going to watch it. I feel like people who are excited by X23 were going to watch this anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone out there who was not going to watch this movie unless X23 was in it.
Yeah. So, no one's gone, wow. I'm going to go watch it now.
But either way, we're going to cast our mind back to yesteryear, a simpler time. We're going to trawl through these movies chronologically. And we'll see kind of where these movies lie in general. Ranging from, we got XOAT.
I think, bottom, there might be a few movies that we're just going to put in just X.
Yeah.
Rubbish. X no.
X is stop. Don't
do this.
Don't make me watch it again.
Don't watch it. Then we've got a step up from there. Not exactly what we hope for. Higher than that, we've got X marks the spot.
Slap bang in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it just kind of does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
A tier, excellent. But with an X.
Nice.
Just an X. And then S tier, XOAT. X-Men of all time.
Mad.
The X-Men of all time, alright? So yeah, chronologically, let's just jump straight into it.
Grab the mouse shed.
Okay, the year 2000, we have got X-Men 1. I actually thought X-Men 1 when I was younger, I had the DVD X-Men 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
I say my dad bought the X-Men 1.5 DVD.
I was there too.
He was there. So I was like, oh, what's X-Men 1?
I'm missing out.
I really thought there was an X-Men in between. But yeah, no, X-Men 1. So year 2000, budget of about 75 million quid. And it grossed around about $300 million worldwide. That was actually quite big at the time. The year 2000 was the only superhero movies of that era was Blade, and Blade was a little bit a bit of a cult classic. So yeah, it kind of brought in a new age of superhero movies at that point. We got 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. Right. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about some of the lore around this. So at first, you really had to be a proper comic book fan to be on comic book forums back in the day. It's not as easy to talk about comic book movies online as it is now with Twitter and Facebook and blah, 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 blah. But obviously there was a lot of controversy about Bob Hoskins potentially being Wolverine at first. Angela Bassett was meant to be Storm.
Whoa.
But obviously there was lots of recasts, lots of things happening behind the scenes. And actually, I think I read somewhere that one of the initial drafts of this movie was meant to be like the classic original X-Men. So Iceman, Beast, Cyclops, Angel, and then Wolverine coming into it. Brother, ooh.
See that.
And actually, one of the like subplots was meant to be that Cyclops was suffering from like self-confidence issues because his leadership, like Chernobyl happened because his leadership didn't work out.
Oh.
So yeah, so it went through a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
But we ended up what we ended up with.
Are they even old enough for that to be a thing?
I don't know. Well,
because Chernobyl was what, 82?
Well, 82, but yeah. So I guess that was when after rewrites because the film says it was set in the near future.
Yeah.
Which I think the near future in 2000 was meant to be like 2010 or something.
And like all the X-Men are confidently like slap bang early 30s
max, absolute max.
So, but yeah, I think for me, I think you watch it now. I think it's kind of reached that point now where it's got that almost nostalgic charm to it because it's so different to what superhero movies are now.
Yeah.
I think in maybe the early 2010s, it kind of the X-Men movies kind of had a bad rap overall. And I think it was fun to kind of call it cheesy, and they didn't want to do the suit, and it had the crusty one line.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think now it has a certain charm, and I think when it came out as well, like you said, you know, this is kind of what propelled superhero movies into being like a respectable genre movie.
This and Spider-Man were like, oh, it doesn't need to be goofy.
Yeah, because at this point you just categorize them as action/adventure, isn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't its own category. And I think it's fun. I think you get to see everyone's powers. I think everyone's powers are kind of displayed in a very fun way. Mm-hmm. And although it's weird to think about now, the idea is of using Wolverine as like an insert for the audience to be able to discover it all.
Brave move.
Yeah, because people are talking about it on Twitter now because of the trailer that Wolverine isn't the X-Man. And at that point, no, he
really wasn't.
But now, because of that movie and the subsequent movies, like, he's massive.
And I'd argue it's and to be right, we love thespians on this podcast. Mm-hmm. He's not a thespian, but his performance is the one that kind of made Wolverine the X-Man. They very easily could have just done X-Men 2 and just pivoted away from him.
Dude, I mean, look, I'm now looking at these covers, right?
Yeah. He's in all of them.
Yeah, well, even the what, like...
So, like, he's just in the X-Men 1 cover.
Yeah.
In all the other covers, he is the cover.
Yeah, and he's the only one that got a spin-off, and then another one, and another one.
And we'll get to them. So, where we put an X-Men 1?
I think as a movie, in itself, I'd say... maybe excellent because of what we were saying about the time.
Do you know what?
But the impact, do you think that gives it extra credit?
I think even if it gives it extra credit, I don't think it gives it enough extra credit to go any further than excellent.
Okay. All right,
so it's going in X with an X. Excellent. Yeah. Oh. I'm happy with that. I think I agree with that.
Well, the next one is a bit of a tap-in, really.
Well, is it a tap-in? Because I think there can only be one XOAT. I mean, if it's the of all time, we might have to mix things around a little bit as we go on. But we're coming on to X2, all right? X-Men 2, X-Men United, whatever it is in your part of the world. Again, 2003. Budget of 125 million, so it shows that there's a huge increase in trust in it from the studio. But also there's a huge increase in demand for it. 405 it grossed worldwide, and it's still got 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, another movie where they wanted Beast and Angel to come in and they didn't. Bryan Singer, who, after I've now said his name, will be referred to as he who shall not be named, has tried to put Beast and Angel in there, and he's actually the one who advocated for a human villain. They wanted to do the Dark Phoenix apparently at this point, but he's the one who fought for a human villain, so it's him we have to thank for Stryker.
It's a fantastic movie.
Fantastic. And it was, I noticed when doing a little bit of reading up about it, it would have actually been the first R-rated X-Men movie, but they had to cut out 4 seconds from the movie. Can you guess what 4 seconds they might have had to cut out? Literally just 4 seconds.
I'm guessing Wolverine chopped someone's head off.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So it was rated 15 or R-rated, and they literally had to just cut out 4 seconds cumulatively throughout that home invasion scene.
Oh, so he chops off a soldier's head.
Yeah, apparently it's a shoulder. So I don't know if it's a head or there's just too much blood, but they were just like, "We got to make this PG-13."
Coward. Nah, fair.
Cowards.
Fair.
This is one of my favorite superhero movies. Full stop.
Speak to the people.
From that, home invasion scene, which was incredible.
But that's not what we're here for.
For the Pyro going home scene.
That's not what we're here
incredible. Wait, are we gonna get to it?
Okay.
We're gonna do the Storm with the fighter jet scene. I guess that's still the Pyro and the Iceman going home scene. The dam scene, cold.
You're losing.
But that opening with Nightcrawler, I don't think there's been a better opening in superhero movies to date. Genuinely, I don't think there's been a better opening. Just straight off the bat, just straight action, and it's like it's action we still haven't seen to this day. Like, it's so creative.
Yes.
And it just gets you locked in.
No context.
Locked.
You've never seen this guy
in,
before.
bro.
Like, you got to deep it. Unless you had watched a few episodes of the cartoon 10 years before.
Even then,
you're like,
who's this guy?
Yeah, what's he doing?
Even then, you ain't seen him use his powers like that.
Yeah.
When
I was a kid, I didn't even link it to the overall message, the like anti-mutant sentiment. I was just like,
I'm in, bro.
Yeah, he's just so cool.
And that bit's cool. The plastic prison is cool. The iron in the blood bit is cool. There's so many cool things in this movie, and I think a lot of movies are trying to do cool for cool's sake.
Yes. Is that this movie? Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how he gets out of prison. Yeah, man. Love it.
I think there's just lots of good moments. I think you get, once he's free, when they're about to go to the dam, like the scenes where everyone kind of gets to talk to each other, like when Magneto's talking to the people, and you kind of thinking, not would they sway, but you can kind of see that, it's kind of hard to disagree with his point of view
at this moment. And it talks back to the important thing that we always find in X-Men movies, which is there has to be a disagreement that you can agree with. Like, you can see both sides. It's a XOAT for me at the moment.
Placeholder
XOAT at the very least. X2 / X United / we're gonna build a dam. Right.
This is now this is unfortunately where
it drops down a little bit.
Serious.
Yeah. So we X-Men 3: The Last Stand, 2006. So I don't know why, in my memory, I thought X-Men 3 was a victim of the writer's strike. It wasn't. The writer's strike started in like 2007. So yeah, we got a budget of £210 million. Audiences still wanted to see it. 460 million in the box office. Only got, well, I say only got it got up to 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I'm kind of surprised by because this was panned back in the day.
I mean, you know, that budget shows it does look good, especially for the time. Like,
It looked good. Yeah.
yeah, I think, you know, even the Professor X, the young Patrick Stewart, like, it's not great, but considering not many people had really done that at that time, yeah, I think it's good. I think it's fun. I think you can turn off and watch it, but I think the disappointment is that with the first two, there was a lot of food for thought.
It felt deeper.
Yeah.
A lot of the emotional points in it. So like Rogue wanting to like lose her power so she can live a normal life. Angel dealing with his dad. They kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
It didn't really hit home.
I think this is the epitome of not exactly what we hoped for.
Yeah.
I think the difficulty when you do those big villains is that the ideologies of both sides, and obviously we've had 2 movies of that, so maybe they wanted to stray away from it. Obviously it's still there, but I think it's difficult to kind of enjoy some of the things that make the first 2 movies so great, because it kind of gets lost in this giant feeling story. Lost. And also Wolverine still fancying Jean Grey, and it's kind of like, let it go, man.
Let it go, buddy. Would the movie have been improved if he who shall not be named, hadn't gone and directed Superman Returns instead?
Who did this one?
Brett Ratner, who's also not a great guy apparently, but
yeah, I thought Brett Ratner was the bad guy. No, I think
they're
because it's Matthew.
Maybe Brett Ratner's worse.
Oh boy.
Sorry to anyone we may have just slandered on this podcast.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a bad guy here.
Either way,
would it have been improved if Bryan Singer had stuck around?
I don't think so, because I think the direction is one thing, and I think the action set pieces and stuff are cool.
Cool. Would it have been improved if Sigourney Weaver had in fact taken up a role as Emma Frost in the movie?
Oh wow.
And took the place as Jean Grey, so there wasn't a Dark Phoenix storyline.
Maybe. I think it's more so to do with the writing. I think there's a lot going on.
So it also wouldn't have been improved if Matt Vaughn was the director, as he was meant to be at one point.
It just like I said, what goes on screen isn't too much. I don't know if these guys were writing it as well as directing, but I think it's more so to me to do with the actual writing. You know,
it's too convoluted.
I think when Wolverine's in the forest with the Brotherhood, you know, the interactions with Magneto to some of his crew as well. I really love the bit where he's talking about like, oh, won't you mark yourself if you're proud?
That's a line.
No needle.
Wasted in this movie.
Yeah,
wasted in this movie.
You know, even the opening when they go find Jean and stuff. But I think it made it almost too final. I guess maybe they wanted to leave it as a trilogy.
Yeah, that's the interesting bit, isn't it? Because it felt like it didn't need to end there. But yeah, it was written like that, wasn't it? Written like a farewell.
Yeah. So yeah, I think definitely not exactly what we hoped for.
I think I agree with that.
Because I still think there's redeemable qualities to it.
There are 2 semi-decent movies merged into one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Right, we're changing tack now because we've now gone from like an X-Men story to a Wolverine story. Now this is definitely the victim of the writer's strike.
Do you think?
Well, it is. It was written. It was written during the height of the writers' strike. The studio wanted to push on with it. They really shouldn't have. Budget of £150 million. It did gross £375 million. And that's not bad considering at that time it was the most pirated movie of all time, probably, because they released an unfinished version the week it was meant to be released.
Yes.
Remember?
They didn't have the finished CG, did they?
So a lot of people watched it without it being done, and then realized how. I think Mr. Nick Mason from Mr. Sunday's Movies sums it up brilliantly, because he was like, "Oh, I watched the pirated version, but I only watched the first 10 minutes, and I thought this is going to be incredible. I want to watch this in its full might, like as it should be." And then obviously, as we know, the movie just gets worse for the remaining hour and a half. But yeah, the first 15 minutes is great, I think.
It's a bit of a Frankenstein of a movie, isn't it? Because it starts so great, and there's potential in there, but I think even my thing, the adamantium bullet, why would that work?
It doesn't make sense.
Because it goes through his adamantium skull, but then his brain regenerates anyway. So why would it kill him? And why would it be at risk of killing him?
Just movie magic, bro.
Yeah, I think the choice. We're treading well-trodden ground here with Deadpool and all of that, but I think that's set up about him being part of that like task force with other mutants.
Yeah,
I think there was a lot that could have been done.
It could have been awesome, like Agent. What's he called? Agent X or Zero, whatever it is. Deadpool. Oh no, Will.i.am was pretty cool in that. I don't know what his character's meant to be called. Blob was alright. I meant the actual like the guy with the guns.
Oh yeah.
And Deadpool, before they tried to do the meta thing of we'll put diamonds in his eyes and then we'll shut him up, we'll subvert your expectations of Deadpool. Before that, like Ryan Reynolds, I thought was doing what Ryan Reynolds does.
Yeah. Also, he can heal himself, so why would he not just rip the stitches off and go back to having a...
No, man. All I remember is that. Do you remember the end credit scene with his head?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. They thought something was going to come of it. Clearly.
Yeah. I think this as well deserves to be an X, just because they did the thing which happens a lot in these movies coming up, where they want to have popular characters in there. But in this instance, it just it's the start of screwing up this timeline. Like Cyclops being there, Emma Frost being there. Yeah. It just doesn't really work.
It's weak. Let's just take it straight next and move on. Like you said, we ain't saying nothing people ain't said already. But we're gonna go on. So I think this is the one where we're actually gonna disagree on the most.
Oh my gosh, no! What are you gonna say?
This is X-Men First Class. So yeah, I think it's 2010, 2011. Budget of 150, grossed 350 in the box office. Got 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. This was essentially it was a reboot, I guess.
Zote.
What's interesting? Okay, so what is interesting about this movie is that it is just a revamped script of something that was proposed in 2004.
Yes.
So after X2, they started to think about how can we make the universe wider. This was meant to be the Young Mutants movie. So this is, I don't know. I found that interesting. That it's something they've been thinking about for a while, and they just pivoted it to just a reboot. And you think it's Zote?
Yes.
Hit me with why.
Perfect movie.
Perfect. Okay.
Nah, it's not a perfect movie, but I think it's just fantastic. I think it works because of the rapport we've built up with Magneto and Professor X
as
old men, but to kind of see them younger. Professor X is irresponsible, I love the Magneto being a Nazi hunter. Like, it's so on brand.
That's
I think the use of someone like Sebastian Shaw, another mutant whose ideology differs with both Eric's and Charles's, I think that's what I like, instead of it being a massive thing. I like that, and I like that, for the first three movies, we kind of been seeing that, what's going on with the mutants is kind of similar to what happened to Eric and, during the war, but it's really cool to see that a mutant is involved in all of that as well. It's not that they're also complicit of these, like, acts of depravity, and it makes it even more interesting that Eric's worldview is that, they want to kill us no matter what, but even some of us want to kill or experiment on us.
They've got traitors in our ranks almost.
Yeah.
I do like it, but it doesn't excel for me. It doesn't excel with an X for me, because I don't think the rapport between James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender is better than that of Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. I don't think the action's any better than any of the previous X-Men movies. I don't think the storyline is that much more interesting than any of the previous. I think the choice of mutants is odd. Anyway, I don't think there's that interest in a team. I hated the Mystique revamp.
I hate what it grew to be.
It definitely got worse.
In this movie, it works to an extent.
It definitely got worse. But yeah, I didn't like the the focus on Raven. I think it's good. Very good. I don't know if I could put it in XOAT.
I think what I would say is some of the other mutants do get left behind. You know, obviously the whole Darwin thing.
But even like Havoc is like,
yeah, Havoc, Banshee, but for me, I just think within 2 hours we can completely understand why Charles and Eric have the relationship that they have 40 years later. You know, they should hate each other. You know, where when he's helping him to go back into his past and he moved the satellite. I just think it's just fantastic in the not the betrayal, but the part of ways at the end, it really hits as well.
That's good.
Yeah,
that is very good, to be fair, because you could see it. It was a train crash, wasn't it? You could see it coming from afar, but you could also see those two being so close to one another that they couldn't even perceive of that disagreement coming.
Yeah.
Right, we'll put it next to X2 for now, and another placeholder. So I think I'm gonna ask to put one more movie.
I know
up
what
there.
you're gonna ask, but that's alright. We'll put it in excellent.
No. We'll come back.
Because I've brought it up. The thing with the other mutants, I think it's remembered for the great character work with kind of 2 to 3 characters, but as an X-Men movie as a whole team, it kind of falls behind a bit.
Okay.
If they put that in the bracket of X-Men Origins, and it was just Charles and
Magneto,
and maybe Mystique, you know, and it's just the 3 of them, because the 3 of them could have done that Cuban Missile Crisis thing as well.
Yeah, it didn't need anyone else to that.
But yeah, so I think, you know, there are low points, and watching it does come back. But
are you sure? We can come back to it. We can have a little.
I'll concede this one.
It's gonna look like I'm gonna steamroll you then. But hey, I think the most forgotten about X-Men movie, the Wolverine. Remember this?
I think I would
Silver
say,
Samurai, Leech, all that.
Watched it in cinemas. Watched it again on DVD a couple of years later. I think I watched it a couple of years ago.
I think I only watched it once in cinema with you, actually.
It doesn't really leave a mark, but it is. I like it for the reason that I dislike X-Men Origins Wolverine. That, you know, it would have been easy for them to drop in some extra characters that we already know.
Yeah.
And, you know, we get that to an extent because I think he's having dreams about Jean throughout.
That's right, yeah.
But that makes sense because this is a direct follow-on. But this is just Wolverine, just going through this whole story and then taking away his healing factor as well. I think just makes it so much more exciting because obviously at this point we're thinking, well
what's going to get him?
Are in the past.
Yeah.
The ones set in the current day are done. So he could just die here.
Yeah.
And it would make sense to. This is the perfect time to kill him. So I think it has a sense of tension to it that maybe the some of the other movies don't have.
I mean, yeah, Origins definitely didn't have it. I was reading a little again about how this movie kind of came about. It was definitely the start of Hugh Jackman kind of realizing, I kind of run things here. Like, if I say I want this, I'm going to get it done. So he actually asked for, and he had him for a bit, Darren Aronofsky to direct this. So that would have been a wildly different movie.
How's that going to go?
But this was the start of the James Mangold and Christopher McQuarrie kind of partnership. And I think it's a good movie. I remember it more for the mid and post credit scenes, to be brutally honest.
Okay.
Just because I don't know, if it felt like a long time since we'd seen OG Professor X, OG Magneto.
Yes.
And that was a nice drop. So I was like, oh, now I'm excited for Days of Future Past, which obviously we're gonna get onto. But yeah.
I think I'd say X marks the spot. I think it's a fun movie. I really enjoy it up until Silver Samurai gets into the big mech scene.
Yeah, it looks a bit. Looks PS2 then, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's probably a bit more fun that could have been had. But yeah.
Cool.
It's a fine movie, isn't it?
Fine, yeah.
Fine.
It just marks the spot.
But now,
Days of Future Past. I think we can have another disagreement here because it says 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, so 90% of people liked it.
10.
Are you?
I'm not. I don't hate it, but I'm not. People were saying like this is
People
better than X2.
loved it.
Yeah.
Budget 200 million, it gross 750, so it's the highest grossing X-Men movie at this point. Yeah, I don't love it either, if I'm being brutally honest.
I think the end. I don't like the ending. The whole.
Ending was the best bit for me.
Really, the whole. I don't like the whole
Good.
climax of it all. It's
Oh, sorry, I meant the very ending with him realizing it's worked thing, and he's going through the school.
Yeah.
But sorry, the climax in the football stadium's pants.
Yeah, the Sentinels kind of look weird and they're not really threatening at this point.
They look terrible.
I think if you're going to do the Sentinels, don't put them up against the one dude that can just deal with them like it's nothing.
And also make him look cool.
Yeah.
I think the Quicksilver scene did a lot of heavy lifting. I think the fan satisfaction, which got me at the start, by the way, the fan satisfaction of seeing the OG X-Men with the new X-Men did a lot. And some of the action scenes in the future were pretty decent too, but looking back on it, I don't love it.
No, and I think what they do with Professor X and Beast in the 70s,
yeah,
I think I get, Charles has to get to the point of being who he is in the present or whatever, but I feel like they only made him so kind of like depressed and destitute for the purpose of having that scene with Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And
it was
one of the
excellent.
best parts of the movie, but it's kind of like that had all been cooked. It seems like everything was cooked up just for that scene. So
written for the sake of writing it. It didn't feel. I'm saying a lot of negatives because I think most people go at this from a positive standpoint. I still think it's good. I'd argue for X marks the spot, if I'm being honest.
I think people like it just because it's a bit like Infinity Endgame.
It was the first Endgame.
Yeah, it's just got all your favorite characters.
Yeah,
and it is fun, but really, it's not. I don't know, and also you don't really. I get it's supposed to be like this is like the last of the humanity and whatnot. But you don't really get a great scope of what's going on in the future. No one really tells you.
Like, obviously, you've got to do this in 2 hours. I don't know if it's possible to have done this, but yeah, really hammer home that at this point the mutants aren't just fighting for mutants. If you had a Bishop and a Cable involved, that would show actually this is the end of the world, not just that the Sentinels have succeeded in what they needed to succeed in.
Yeah.
And that shows that the altruistic nature of the X-Men at that point and how deep things must have got for Magneto to be worried about humans as well. And
I think there could have been a movie in between, personally. I think it would have been...
Perhaps.
I guess it kind of chops it up more because we're back with the old team. But I think if there was... maybe not a two-parter, but if this had started and Wolverine had kind of gone back...
If there was a X-Men 4...
Yeah.
And it ended on a cliffhanger...
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, or even... Exactly. Yeah, and you could still have both teams. Kitty finds out she can do this and cast him back or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe even Wolverine fails. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, one of those,
It could even be that, because it all gets reset in the end anyway. But, I think it's... I'd say another X marks the spot.
X marks the spot. I think that's fair. I can't argue against that.
But that opening is... That opening's up there in Zoe with Nightcrawler in the White House.
What?
The opening to this film, when the Sentinels are attacking the monastery and you've got like Blink and Sunspot.
Yeah.
And everyone's just dying and it just right.
Sorry, I see what you mean.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, that was fun. That was good.
Well, one thing about these movies, X-Men 2, even X-Men 1 with like the cage match, Wolverine, X-Men Origins, and this, great openings. Even X-Men First Class.
Really
X-Men
great
1
openings.
In a concentration camp.
And to be fair to X-Men, actually, probably up until this point, no, I'm lying. Up until the next movie's point, I'd say they've done a really good job of making their action sequences quite innovative.
Yes.
They're always thinking of new ways to do it, and they've got a cheat code. They could put whatever mutants in they like to do it, to be fair. But like, we're seeing stuff that other movies weren't doing, and then just end up trying to copy.
Yes.
After this next movie, I think that probably changes, to be fair, and they get a bit lazy. But yeah, next movie being Deadpool, number 1.
Okay, I've jumped ahead. Yeah.
This is I've got a soft spot for Deadpool 1, actually. Obviously, there was the test footage that every nerd online saw that was, we then found out, purposely leaked by Ryan Reynolds to get them to release this movie.
Genius.
Even after that, the studio provided him with little support. So I remember the marketing campaign, and it was actually at one point exhausting. But it was completely driven by just Ryan Reynolds and a small team of like dedicated professionals, wasn't it? Do you remember?
Is it like a 50 mil budget, this movie? Isn't
Yes,
it?
58 million.
Yeah,
$58 million budget. There was, I was at uni at the time, and I remember going to the uni cinema, and there were people there who weren't nerds. There were people there that definitely did not know who Deadpool was.
Yeah.
The viral marketing campaign that Ryan Reynolds did was genuinely like a cultural moment.
Yeah, I remember me and my friends, we snuck in to see it because some of us were too young.
Yeah.
And when we got back and we told everyone at school, because I think it came out in February.
It came out on Valentine's Day. That was part of the marketing, yeah.
And we went back to school, and all the girls were like, "Oh, why did you go to the shopping centre and see what else we wanted to see?" That.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were all thinking, girls want to see this superhero movie.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? But yeah, it's good. It's concise. The action is great.
Action's awesome, yeah.
And it uses characters, Bar Colossus, who's barely an X2, that we haven't seen before, which is exciting.
It is exciting.
So,
is the opening sequence as good as X2? I think it's up there.
On the bridge. It's the same as the test footage, yeah. No, I don't think it's as good, but I think it's still a really good
one.
And you're locked in. My only concern with these Deadpool movies, and they wouldn't work as movies, I don't think, unless you tried very, very hard, is that he's not insane, he's just quirky.
Okay, yeah.
Like, he does the fourth wall breaks and stuff, but I love in the comics the different thought boxes he has.
Yeah, like he is actually insane.
Yeah. But no, I really like it, and it's a convincing plot. Like, it's a compelling plot. Firstly,
yeah.
So
it's just a nice, contained story.
It's like 90 minutes as well. Like I feel like
something
it's
like that. Yeah,
it's not long, and it doesn't feel.
Doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Really doesn't need to be. I wouldn't argue for excellent. Excellent with an X.
Yeah, I think so. I don't hate that. I think a lot of superhero stuff, that's when all this a lot of this more mature superhero stuff started to catch on. I don't think something like The Boys, which is, comedic and quirky but dark and violent.
Yeah.
I don't think that gets greenlit to have such a big budget.
No way.
Unless stuff like this keeps the trend. So.
He definitely kicks, and they, like you said, they're gonna kick this dead horse.
Yeah.
Because it was so successful. It grossed 800. It was the highest grossing R-rated movie. I think it still is to this day. Highest grossing X-Men movie at this point.
Was it?
Yeah, 800 million.
Really? Is that
800 million is how big it got off a 58 million pound budget.
I always had the theory that this is why Sony made Venom, and that's why they made Venom the way he is.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
saw this and they were like,
100%. So excellent movie. Excellent with an X.
Excellent movie, yeah.
Awesome. Excellent with a what?
With an X.
Thank you. Now back down to earth. X-Men Apocalypse. What do we say about X-Men Apocalypse then? So Bryan Singer returns for this movie.
I think we got the wrong guy.
I think he probably was a good guy.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, bro.
Wait,
actually, I don't want to apologise, actually, yeah. Just in case. So, what do we talk about here? There was the mansion rescue. It was the same thing. They were successful with the Quicksilver thing.
Yeah.
They did it again. That was cool.
I'm pretty sure Sweet Dreams by Eurythmics shot way back up in the charts after that movie.
Almost definitely, yeah.
Oh
my gosh, I just remember something about this movie. Do you remember what happens straight after the mansion rescue? Do you remember what happens?
No.
They do a 20-minute detour from the movie just so they can put Wolverine in. Do you remember?
Well,
William Stryker kidnaps them, and then they rescue. Well, they don't rescue Wolverine, but they release Wolverine
Yeah, but then he has that weird moment with Jean.
with Jean.
And she's like 16.
Yeah, yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah, I really didn't understand. There were so many things in the movie where, again, they're trying to put in too much. In terms of openings, I guess it's not technically an opening, but do you remember the scene with Magneto and his daughter?
Where she gets shot.
Where she gets shot. Now, I thought that was a brilliant scene.
It's alright, yeah.
Okay, okay, well, it just goes downhill from there, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean...
Even if you didn't like it that much, it definitely goes downhill from there.
I kind of respect that they tried to do it like, oh, Magneto's maybe giving humanity another chance. But it's kind of like having him... I don't know. He's in like Serbia or somewhere working in some like steel factory.
Something like that, yeah.
And there's the lava and he saves the guy. And it's like, you know, actually... It's just like, yeah, we get it. Every human's bad to Magneto. I think it would have been interesting if those guys had kept this secret and other people had come in.
Yeah, done it. Yeah.
You know, I think that... But, yeah, I think Magneto doesn't really have to be in this, making him a Horseman of the Apocalypse as well.
Let's talk about the other Horseman. Storm.
Weird
They wrote
choice.
that poorly. Psylocke. What a waste.
Yeah, it's like, it's fine. Like, but she tags out, like, just after the start of the battle. She doesn't actually do that much, does she?
Not as a Horseman, no.
Yeah.
Well, not in the final battle as Horseman.
Apocalypse was whack.
That has got to be... This is 2016. That is got to be the worst portrayal of any villain. Just visually, the worst portrayal of any villain that they could have done.
It's just too early.
He's a Power Rangers villain.
Yeah.
He's when you think of Apocalypse, right? And I don't dislike this movie I don't dislike this movie just because it's not comic accurate. But I think this just shows how much love and thought went into this. Apocalypse is famously massive.
Yeah.
So they chose one of the shortest actors out there to portray him. He's literally shorter than like Angel in half his scenes.
And he can grow larger as well, because I kept thinking, oh, he's going to grow as this fight goes on.
No, doesn't.
Like, the only, you know, it's a bit cool where he's like, you know, he's whopping everyone and he like breaks Quicksilver's leg and stuff.
He doesn't even do that. Like, I don't know.
But my thing is, you did the Phoenix, it went awfully.
Yeah.
And then the resolution to this movie is that Jean and Charles can use the Phoenix Force somehow to beat Apocalypse.
They all use the power of friendship.
Because specifically, Charles goes in and he goes bold, and then and then Jean uses the power of the Phoenix and she walks on air.
No, so I think Charles goes bold because Apocalypse is trying to take over his body.
Yes.
I think Jean does the Phoenix thing separately.
Yeah, sorry, that's after when they're in the house.
Because they're doing the whole beams going from different angles thing.
It's like, why are we doing this again? It's like, Apocalypse is like, I would say, they're like endgame villain. Like,
yeah, probably, yeah.
Or like Bastion, now that he's popular from the show. But, you know, Apocalypse... He's such a big deal. These guys have to go back in time and, you know, try and stop him before. You know, roll everyone in. That should be your Days of Future Past thing, because that's what it was. Like, you need everyone from all over time.
Yeah, and they, I think they recognised that by defeating him the way they did with the, okay, Magneto, you put loads of metal on him, and then Cyclops, you just take off your visor and shoot at him, and then Beast, try and jump at him, and like it just not be there. And it's just like, and it looks trash. It really looks really bad at that point as well.
Yeah.
When I'm looking back on it, it's like you've done too much, and it's come off as having done less.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, like you said, they've done too much whilst doing not enough. Poor.
I think the setup is promising. I think that's why it could, for me, be not exactly what we hoped for.
Interesting.
It's the same thing with X3, where it's a big storyline. It's one of the most popular storylines. And it's not a storyline really, but one of the most popular characters, villains.
Yeah.
And they roll in Storm again and Psylocke, who people have been wanting to see, in a proper version of Angel. It's just not. It doesn't hit the spot, but it could have later. If these movies had stayed on track.
Because Nightcrawler's in that as well, and Okay, I was about to argue to put it in X, but I think you swayed me. I'm going to go with not exactly with an X, what we hope for.
Because it could have been...
Yeah, it could have
been worse.
Yeah, definitely. Could have been worse. Definitely. All right, okay. Not exactly what we hope for. Are we going to argue again? Because it's time for Logan. That's a zote for me, bro. I'm so sorry. That's the zote for me.
It's all right. It's excellent for me.
Okay.
Excellent.
Would it have been the zote if Fox had taken Mark Millar's suggestion to, all right, you can remake Old Man Logan almost exactly whilst getting rid of MCU characters. You can make Cyclops become Hawkeye. Yeah. You could make Blob become the Hulk. You could get Toad to be the little Hulklings, etc., etc. Would it have been better like that?
Well, I think the difference is, like, you can't really, because with the Old Man Logan story, a lot of the stuff they encounter is from Avengers or wider Marvel stuff, and like the whole country has fallen. In this, it's kind of like it's a more of a realistic decline you could see from a country.
Yeah, the mutant diaspora's fallen rather than like a.
So I think it's a bit more grounded and it works for that. Logan's not doing anything crazy either.
Well, actually, let's make it clear. This movie's not even close to Old Man Logan.
No.
And to be fair,
just an old man.
James,
Logan, and that's it.
James Mangold says it himself. He says he takes more inspiration from the X-23 origin storyline, which I haven't read, to be brutally honest. So I guess he did. And it's just Old Man. I think it's called. I think everyone expected Old Man Logan, one because Hugh Jackman said it was gonna be that. To be fair, and two because it was called Logan. I think doing Old Man Logan just makes this movie completely different anyway. But,
yeah, I don't think. I think it's I think it's fine as is. I think it's good as is.
Sorry, fine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the addition of Charles and stuff is cool. Calabac as well. Yeah, it's alright.
You gonna tell me you didn't cry at this movie?
No. It was emotional. It's an emotional end, that's for sure. And I like the part, like, he's kind of redeemed and he's trying to rescue these kids and stuff. And they do, by and large, get away. So, yeah, I think it's excellent. I don't think it's Zoe. But I'm not hating.
I will be on the record saying that is an atrocious pick.
Listen, if you want to put... I'm not going to argue because I think removed from being a superhero movie is also just a really good movie.
Yeah, it's an incredible movie.
So, I'm not going to argue if you put that Zoe, because...
Oh, that's the whole point of this podcast, mate. You're meant to argue where we go.
I think, yeah, I understand how people regard it. I think, for me, it was just after so much mess, and I think, if they'd done a sort of it over a longer period of time, because it's like you said, the first X-Men's in the near future, so say that's 2010, and like in 19 years, this guy's gone from being awful, even though he's had that metal in his body for 40 years and not aged. Yeah. So it's just like nitpicky things more so than anything. But I think
okay,
you could have showed the decline over a longer period of time and a lot more loss. But I like it.
I always thought that they should have stopped making X-Men movies after that. Do you think that would have improved your thoughts about the movie if they had just made that the bookmark, the foot end? Sorry.
Well, it's not the same universe. They said
that's what they say. Yeah, but are any of these movies in the same universe? Let's keep it buck.
That is there. That is true. That is true.
Okay, Deadpool 2. Excellent. X marks the spot. X. A flat X.
Straight dookie water, man.
Whoa. Okay, so for me, it is just the same movie with more bells and whistles.
But it's not funny. Maybe it's because I was no longer 14.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, because it is just the same fart jokes and penis jokes and look at me. I used to be Green Lantern jokes. I wouldn't go from excellent down to X. I would have said not exactly with an X what we would have hoped for, personally.
I just think you just set him back to square one because Vanessa dies right at the beginning, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, right, okay. You know, I really think Deadpool should be living a normal life, full stop. But that's what we got from that first movie, and it was nice and it worked.
Uh-huh.
And then it was like, yeah, and now we've got all these different characters in. They're all gonna die in funny ways. Yeah, cool. You know, the little New Zealander, Kiwi guy. Yeah, he's fun. That scene with them in the prison as well. Like, yeah, it's fun, but it's just not much of anything. Juggernaut looks awful.
Do you think?
He looks awful.
I haven't watched that in a while. I remember thinking it's better than what we had.
I was so disappointed because, like I said, I remember that first movie was made on 50 mil, which is by no means a shoestring budget. For a movie to gross that much is mad. And then you get to the second one, and the CG is honking.
Yeah, they could have. I guess they just wanted to keep the same model for Colossus, but they definitely could have made Colossus look more realistic, and they could have definitely made Juggernaut more realistic. But maybe they spent too much of their budget on Brad Pitt. Who knows?
Yeah, I think they had the right idea in making it a team-up thing. I think Domino was kind of an obscure but fun person to kind of roll into that.
Yeah, that was a really cool way to depict her powers. I was a bit unsure how you show luck on screen, but yeah, they did it, I think.
I think it's funny that Deadpool never really understands it. So, like, it's kind of like, yeah, it is such a wishy-washy way to explain a power. And Cable was cool. I don't know what direction I would have taken it, but I just don't. I just think that was a whole load of nothing.
Really. Okay. So let's go on next. All right.
Yeah.
You sure?
Cable giving up his future as well, just so they can rewind time a bit as well, right at the end. I don't know. I was watching that as it came out. And as someone who loved the first one I was watching, I thought, this is awful.
All right. Well, I tell you what, you've watched it clearly more recently than me. I'll go with your word on this. I'll put it on X.
Get on Disney, mate. Disney Plus. Watch it again at some point this week. You'll be so disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not good.
I tell you what else ain't not good. With a 22% Rotten Tomatoes score, with a $200 million budget and a £250 million gross, so it's probably a major loss. 2019's X-Men: The Dark Phoenix.
Oof, Dark Phoenix. Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. So, this is the culmination of definitely giving Jennifer Lawrence far too much to do. Actually, that's another reason why I didn't like Days of Future Past. I thought about that. Making Jennifer Lawrence obviously she's the biggest name, so obviously they would. But making Mystique the cusp of like mutant liberation. Anyway, they're doing it again here where Jennifer Lawrence has clearly had enough. They didn't even bother doing her makeup properly. They just made her blue, killed her off nice and early. Probably a good riddance. It's this actually. What's funny is it's pretty much exactly the same team in terms of writing, production, direction as X-Men 2 and X-Men: The Last Stand, and that kind of shows no new ideas in 20 years.
Why after a hard swing and a miss would you go?
Let's do it again.
Let's try it again, but we're gonna make it even wackier than before by bringing in the aliens.
I think because of what we said, like X-Men 3 had 2 semi-decent movies in it, and to be fair, this time round they just made it just one movie. Turns out that semi-decent movie in X-Men 3 just isn't good. Is worse actually. It's probably made better by that Cure storyline. This is where the action gets poor.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, I gotta hold my hands up. I've not seen it, and we said this evening, should we watch it? And you said just don't.
Just don't.
Because I know what happens. I've heard about it from people.
Yeah.
But I've never once. I'd given up by this point.
That's
after
at
Deadpool
X.
2 and after X-Men Apocalypse, I was like,
that's an X-Men. It's a straight X.
Yeah.
Straight X.
Fair.
Yeah. Sophie Turner as well. I worry for her career.
Well, I think she should stop acting now, hasn't she? She took a break because
sounds like it's for the best.
Really?
Yeah.
She's a good actress, isn't she?
Well, she was good in Game of Thrones. Like, I did not like her in X-Men at all. What I did surprisingly like.
Yeah.
What I did surprisingly like was the New Mutants. So that's what we decided to watch today. And I think the reason no one's seen this, because the budget was $80 million.
Really?
The box office return was 50.
It It looks good.
Well, it does look good, and here's why, right? So we were debating at the very start about what actually happened, why no one watched this, why no one kind of backed it. Production initially began in 2015, all right? So this was meant to be part of the first class kind of group of movies. And it was scheduled to release in like late 2018 time. Issue is, apparently the first script wasn't great. New directors came in, reshoots took place in like early 2018. And it's rumored at that point they put in whole new characters, they like cut out complete characters from the movie. But then in 2018, because they thought it would all be done and dusted by then, what they decided to do was focus on Deadpool a little bit more, and they actually pushed the reshoots even further back. So we're looking at like mid 2018s when they're doing reshoots for a movie they were expecting to release in 2018. Then they didn't want to release the movie too close to the Dark Phoenix in 2019. So they're like, I tell you what, we'll release it at the end of 2019, a few months after the Dark Phoenix, so they don't get in each other's way. But in March 2019, Disney bought Fox. This movie's actually, well, it's funny. It's about like what they thought was a cursed hospital. This is a cursed movie production. In 2019, Disney bought Fox. They acquired Fox, and they were like, "This movie's trash." Like they saw the reshoots, and they're like, "This is actually not good. We're gonna have to reshoot it again."
Wow.
So they actually ended up reshooting the movies at the end of 2019 when it was meant to have been released, or a year after it was meant to be released, and set the release date for April 2020.
Right.
Now, what happened in March 2020?
Oh boy, yeah.
It went into a whole lockdown. So there was nothing going on in cinemas. But at this point, Disney kind of saw it as like a money black hole anyway. So then they released it on Amazon Prime Home Video. People didn't like that, so then they pulled it back from Amazon Prime Home Video and waited for Disney Plus streaming service to come available, waited for WandaVision and all that to get released, and then dropped it on there again without actually telling anyone.
It is such a shame, because the two movies they initially pushed it back for, it's better than.
Way better than.
And I think, I can't tell where the reshoots occurred, to be honest, unless they reshot the whole movie.
If they must reshot the whole movie.
Because you can't tell, but I do remember the first trailer, there was stuff in there that I did not see in that movie.
Couldn't tell you what trailer I've seen.
Because it seemed a lot more scary, maybe it's because I was younger. I distinctly remember a scene of Sunspot in a cell, like burning up, like exploding the cell. And that's, remember when we were looking earlier, there were so many deleted scenes.
That
was
a
the
lot.
scenes people had seen in the initial trailers, which
Must
they knew. Well, but I liked it. It was
I
scary,
do like it.
It was tense. I liked the characters. It was small.
Yeah,
I love the single setting.
We've advocated many times for more single setting superhero movies. We've advocated for more horror kind of genre superhero movies, and it does do that. I didn't like the acting. I think
it grew. I think the main character.
Moonstar left.
Yeah.
Maisie Williams, I thought, was the best actor in that. Actually,
had no holes.
Had no holes, and I think even like she hit the emotional points really, really well. You kind of you had some rapport with her character.
Yeah.
You kind of understood her. I really didn't understand Anya Taylor-Joy. She really irked me. Clearly, it was one of those ones where someone who's 50 years old is writing teenage angst. So I'm not going to hold that against her. Okay. But the whole like, I'm going to do spray painting because I'm a rebellious teen.
Yeah.
That's not on her, but I didn't quite get her role. I'm a racist. Now I'm
I think the anti-Native American racism straight off the bat was like,
it's a bit strong.
You can make us not like her without, because if you're the main character, you're never going to be able to just be like, But you know what? That backstory, whatever on earth those smiling men were, like, I think these movies could have happily continued with Fox, right?
Yeah.
If they carried on doing these R-rated movies, because a lot of these X-Men stories, when you were able to show like the full extent of them, so cool.
Yeah.
What on earth were they?
Yeah. That was actually kind of scary.
Yeah. It was like the first time you saw him, it's like, oh
Ooh,
my gosh.
that's come out of nowhere. Like,
I love the thing about Lockheed. It seems like an emotional support dragon instead of the actual dragon.
yeah, and then it actually is an actual dragon,
The action scenes where they cut between Limbo and like the real world as well.
especially on that budget.
Yeah, bro. I thought that was a bigger budget because I knew it tanked, but I expected it to tank from a massive budget.
Huge budget, yeah.
But it was really unfair. It's really unfair because I think those actors would obviously be jaded by the experience. I think Maisie Williams was. I know she took a break from acting. I don't know if she's gone back.
Yeah, because she must put a lot of hard work into that to then get nothing from it.
Yeah, and I think they all did. It's 5 young up and coming actors at the time.
Yeah,
they're all 30 odd now.
You had 3 different directors.
Yeah,
3 different shoots. Like,
yeah.
And they still came up with something decent.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go overboard. For me, it's a X marks the spot, personally.
I would say it's an excellent, bro.
Okay.
I really, really enjoyed it. And I didn't hold too much against them with the acting. I think Danielle, I can't remember her real name, but, that's the only thing I've ever seen her in, so I assume that's like her first big role.
Mm.
And it's a lot to ask of someone.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, but I liked it. I think everyone else does a good job. Whoever plays Sunspot, and Charlie Heaton as well, like another great actor.
He did actually. Yeah, he did really well. He did really well, to be fair.
So I liked it, and it was 90 minutes. It didn't feel like 90 minutes. We had enough time.
No, yeah, it was pretty good. So you're putting that excellent.
I would, yeah.
So I want you to. I just want you to look back at this list. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look right to me. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Because I'm thinking, are we saying New Mutants was as good as Logan? Is that what we're saying right now?
I'd say it's in the same bracket. I wouldn't say it's bar for bar as good, but I don't think I don't think that Deadpool is as good as Logan. But I think they're good for their own reasons.
Is Deadpool 2 as bad as?
Yes.
Okay.
This cannot stand.
Okay. It don't look right to me, but I'm sure if anyone's got any disagreements, I'll put it in the comments.
You can drop First Class X marks the spot then.
No, because do you know what? I also think X First Class is as good as, if not better than New Mutants.
Okay.
I like New Mutants, but I don't think it was excellent with an X. But that's whatever. That's fine. I'm generally okay with the look of that.
Okay. It is more top heavy than I expected when we got into this.
I think X-Men movies are good. I think their bad is real bad.
I think from everything from X marks the spot upwards, there's a lot of fun to be had with all of them. Mm. I think, sometimes with superhero movies, that's all you need. But they set the bar so high when they started.
Yeah.
And with little things they sprinkled in between, that you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is like how good these movies can actually be instead of just like fun superhero romps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sad to see it all get rebooted. I really, really like the casting in New Mutants as well, and I'm sad we're not going to get to see them come back. But yeah, it's whatever.
We can still go back to watch them, I guess. Mm. So where do we think? I have to say, I'm now concerned about what you think is going to happen with Deadpool Wolverine.
X marks the spot, my bite.
Yeah, it's going to be a bang-on straight.
You can't
straight the road movie.
You can't miss with fan service, but more often than not, people know that, and it's just lazy.
Okay. I was worried that you can put it lower because it looks like it's going to be exactly the same humor, but less R-rated. Like instead of saying like penis, he's going to be like fart.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the most recent trailer they dropped was a bit more serious, and I appreciated that. I don't think.
But do we want serious?
I don't. But I think the way they've done this character, he's not insane. Like he's not kind of laughing in the face of like world-ending disasters. So yeah, maybe up the stakes. I'm not really sure where Cassandra Nova's gripe is going to be with these two specific dudes.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting that the TVA are involved as well, and I know you haven't.
Yeah, you got to make it MCU-y, haven't you?
Yeah. But bro, I would say watch Loki season 2 as an aside, but they don't need. They don't need to be doing this.
Yeah, I imagine it's gonna be I think at the least it will be not exactly with an X what we hope for.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, obviously we'll come back to it.
We can do a breakdown. We can do a review of it.
Yeah,
on the weekend.
Yeah, next week. But yeah, I from the trailers, I think it'll just be fine.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much, but that just means if anything, our expectations will be superseded, and if they are not, that means it's a god awful.
Yeah, it'll be real bad.
Yeah.
Be real bad, and it'll have some good company with some of them stinkers down in X. Hey man, well, till next week. We'll continue to fight about that. Please continue to fight about the hierarchy of X-Men movies that are in front of you right now, down in the comments and everywhere you see it. But yeah, till then.
See you then, mate.